mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life. We won't live in the past. We're making it alive.
It's time for another conversation. Welcome to Make It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. And I'm here this evening with Dr. Warren Farrell. He's an author of the book Roommate to Soulmate. Tell us about that book, sir.
Well, the book began in my mind about 30 years ago when I started doing workshops called Roommate to Soulmate at places around the country, retreat centers, and then I got a feedback from people that the most important problem that they had was the inability to handle criticism without becoming defensive. And so I would talk about that in the workshop and give people ways of of being able to be receptive to criticism. But one of the things I did is to ask people to they invited people to a free group follow-up phone call a couple of months after they did the workshop, and I asked everybody in the group, what worked and what didn't work, and they said, well, this idea of not handling personal criticism without being defensive was really a great idea, but when we got home, the first time criticism appeared, that wisdom disappeared, and so I said, and yet. When in the workshop I was able to get them to do that, they really felt much more connected with each other. So I've started to realize that not handling personal criticism without becoming defensive was biologically unnatural to do. Because when people historically heard criticism, it was a possible enemy. So you had to get up your defenses or even to kill the enemy before the enemy killed you. And so that was functional for survival. It was just dysfunctional for love. And so I started to ask myself, is there a way around this? Not maybe, that to get around it really meant having an evolutionary shift. I sort of said, I'm going to try to, see if I could work this out. And eventually I was able to develop something that I called a caring and sharing practice in
Okay.
which couples set aside 2 hours a week. And part of that 2 hours was before one partner shared his or her concern. The person who was about to hear the concern, which they usually considered a criticism, would alter their natural biological state and develop, put themselves in the state of 6 mindsets that allowed them to associate the criticism that was about to come with an opportunity to be more deeply loved. So, for example, the first mindset that they would say was something called the love guarantee. And they would say out loud to their partner, so the person about to do the criticism would feel safe. Um, if I provide a safe environment for you to say whatever you want, whether I completely disagree with it or not, whether it's in the right tone of voice or not, even if it's sarcastic, and you yet nevertheless see me completely making a safe space for you to do that, you'll feel more secure. You'll feel more less like you have to walk on eggshells. You'll feel more like you feel more loved by me and therefore more love for me. So what I was doing is having them associate criticism with an opportunity to be more deeply loved, as opposed to associate criticism with a feeling of being disrespected or of not being protected.
Okay. All right. I think you've somewhat touched on some of what you're going to elaborate on later, because what we're going to be unpacking is Roommate to Soulmate, the 7 secrets to lifelong love. And I have a feeling that the whole idea of criticism is already one of them. Yes?
Yes, yes, and yes.
I figured you were getting it. All right. So what's the other one? What's number? I don't know if there's a specific order, or
Oh,
what's the second one?
yeah, I call it the 4 C's.
Okay.
The first one is criticisms, the second is complaining, the third is complacency, and the fourth is controlling. So complaining. So for
Okay.
example, let's say I make a dinner reservation or my favorite, a restaurant that I'm recommending. And we get there and my wife says, gee, the soup is kind of bland, don't you think? And from or the service that the guy that served us was really aloof. And so from her perspective, she's criticizing the soup and the service. From
Mhm.
my perspective, she's criticizing my recommendation. If I'm not aware of the fact that, so I'm asking the person who might complain about something that is the other person's recommendation,
Mhm.
that's an example of complaining that doesn't feel like complaining to the person doing the complaining. They feel like they're complaining about the restaurant, not the person. And
Okay.
but that they're likely to experience that the person who made that recommendation will feel criticized.
Okay. All right. So backtrack. You said you call them the four C's of what?
The four C's, which are the four depleters of love, the four C's
Okay.
being
Okay.
the criticisms, the complaining, the controlling, and the complacency.
Okay. All right. Tell us a bit about complacency and controlling.
Yeah, so complacency. So oftentimes we're when we first meet somebody, we get all dressed up and do the right makeup, the right hair, shave the beard really nicely, trim it, choose our favorite wardrobes, which makes us look the most manly or the most feminine or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And we project onto what the other person will want and like, and based on what we know about them, we might even ask a friend. And so then if we're having them over or if we're having company over for dinner, we may plan our very favorite meal and get the house all clean and ready. And so that's when we first meet somebody, or we are together and we have somebody over to the house, or we're going to a
Mm-hmm.
party.
Mm-hmm.
But during the day, we may wear, just let the hair go or let the beard, grow, or, wear some clothing around the house that's sort of just old and comfortable. And we're doing that during the week. And then all of a sudden, Saturday night comes, all right, we're going to go see some company or have them over, and you start worrying about the wardrobe again. And the message to our partner is, you know, company that I may only see a few times in my life, they're special. You,
Mm-hmm.
you just sort of leftover
Mm-hmm.
love,
Mm-hmm.
but that's often never articulated.
True.
Now, and the value of articulating it and doing a caring and sharing session about it, which is the type of session I talked before when somebody is able to hear criticism,
Mm-hmm.
that has the opportunity to have one person say, for example, I'm this way around you. I relaxed and so on because I can really be myself. Well, there's value to that. On the other hand, it may be, how much does that make you not feel special when I'm sort of doing behaviors around you that sort of I would never do in company, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
criticizing you. I would never criticize the company, etc.
True.
And so 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 that's the complacency
Mm-hmm.
can be positive because it allows you to relax.
Okay.
But it can also be negative
Negative,
for the reasons I
definitely.
mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And so the solution is having a discussion about both of your perceptions of, how much complacency, how much specialness, should there be a date night? If so,
Mm-hmm.
and should there be nights when one of us cooks for the other and makes a real special meal and treats each other in a special way?
Okay.
What are the things, the clothes you like, that you like best on
Mm-hmm.
me?
Mm-hmm.
And let me wear those clothes, etc.
Okay. And the last one, controlling.
The controlling, oftentimes I'll ask people in my workshop, do you feel like, now that you know about the complaining and the criticisms, raise your hand if you feel like you criticize more than you would like to, or more than is functional. Almost every hand does go up. What about complaining? Yeah, almost all hands go up. Do you feel you're controlling? Only maybe a third to a half of the hands go up. And then I say, if somebody criticizes you, do you feel controlled by them?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. If someone is complaining about recommendations that you've made, do you feel controlled by that? Yes. I want to get their approval. So can you see that somebody who experiences the things you acknowledge that you do might experience you as controlling? Yes. And so we work at it from there.
we're going to be unpacking this time around role mates to soulmates, secrets to a lifelong love.
You can't live your best life without a healthy immune system. Boost your immune system the delicious way with Zappy's organic juices and punches. Made from local produce with zero added sugar, our juices cleanse and revitalize your body as they boost your natural immunity. Try our delicious flavors. Beat It, Berry Bomb, Get Fresh, Ton Up, and Island Splash. Find us on Instagram at Zappy's Organics or call or send a WhatsApp message at 1-876-779-8910 to order today. That's 1-876-779-8910. Zappy's Organic Juices and Punches. Live your best life today.
For all your events such as educational forums, workshops, book launches, weddings, and more, contact Noreen Daly, the ultimate MC and event host. Visit noreendaly.com or follow her on Instagram at Noreen Daly Jam. Noreen Daly, creating long-lasting memories.
Langdo Language Institute was created to meet your language and communication needs. All of our packages were created just for you. We are passionate about language and dedicated to your success. We offer the CSEC English program, the Study Buddy program, the Get Ahead with English program, and the Business Communication program. Contact us at 767-285-0938 or email us at landolanguage@gmail.com, because the real question is, how can we help you?
We're talking about lifelong love. We're having this conversation with Dr. Warren Farrell, author. But we must take a break and get a word from our partners. We'll be right back. How did you get to condensing it specifically into these 4 C's and why, these 4 C's in particular? Why? How did you get to that point?
Yes, those are just the four of the depleters of love, and there's there actually are many others as well, but I find that it makes it easier for people to remember. So, another depleter of love is the tendency to not appreciate each other. Again, we appreciate each other very much when we first meet each other, and we often appreciate guests. But oftentimes what I do in the workshops and in the Role Mate to Soulmate book is I have couples set aside one time, like my wife and I, Liz, do it on Wednesday evening, and we will set aside a little time just to say 3 things about her that I really have experienced during the week that I appreciate. And then I require myself to do that at multiple levels of specificity. So I might not just say, that chicken last night was really good. I might say that, the chicken was good, but you got the skin so crisp on the chicken. How did you do that? And so I'm beginning to dig into something that I really appreciated about it. It was, the chicken was really nice and moist. It wasn't too dry, and yet it wasn't raw either. And sometimes and I like it, that combination. I really love the spicing that you put on it. What was the spicing you put on it? Was that parsley or sage or rosemary or thyme or some other Simon and Garfunkel spice?
Okay.
And so but all of that takes an effort. Most people,
Yes, it does.
they appreciate each other at the very beginning, and then they just let it go, and they just assume their partner knows what they love about them, but it's never expressed, or it's rarely expressed. And so that's
It's another depleter as well. Should I then understand then that basically, because what you just said, I could also attach it to complacency. So could I almost then believe that just about every single depleter could almost come under those top 4 then, basically, in one way or the other?
the criticism doesn't come under complacency, and the complaining doesn't come under complacency.
No, okay. But I'm
Okay.
just saying, is it then that any other? Because the other one that you said in terms of people not, being appreciative, to some
Yeah.
extent that happens because people get complacent.
Absolutely.
Ah,
That's
so I'm
certainly
wondering then if maybe to a large degree, all the others in some way might then come under those top four. Yes or no?
no,
Not
actually.
necessarily? Okay.
So for example,
Mm-hmm.
once people know that they have a time during the week,
Okay.
those 2 hours for what I call the caring and sharing practice, where they alter their biologically natural state to really hear
Mm-hmm.
their partner's criticism in a way that associates it with love.
Mm-hmm.
So now they've had this experience, and once they've had this experience, they have an understanding that anything my partner brings up, I not only can hear, but
Okay.
I have a method of leaving my partner so understood
Mm-hmm.
that she or he will feel like much more open. And usually they have their best lovemaking sessions afterwards
Okay. Okay.
because their partner really feels very loved and heard
Mm-hmm.
and seen.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's only 2 hours a week.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's 166 leftover hours, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
have them develop during those other hours what I call a conflict-free zone. And that
Mm-hmm.
conflict-free zone will go like this. Let's say you're you come into the kitchen and somebody says, "Gee, you left a bunch of dishes in the sink. It looks kind of messy," and it
Mm-hmm.
sort of makes me feel I'm working all day and I'm coming up and I want a little bit of peace. I go to the kitchen for something to drink,
Mm-hmm.
and all these dishes. It sort of like puts me back into sort of work mode again. And so they say this to their partner, and their partner says something like, "Well, I left a few dishes in the sink, but you left them in the sink yesterday. I didn't go complaining to you, about the dishes being in the sink. So why are you always complaining and so picky with me?" And so instead of the person being heard, what they often experience is maybe I should just put the dishes away myself, because if I say something, my partner will respond to me with defensively. That will only escalate,
The
and so
situation, yeah.
we'll start the end of the evening, or the end of the workday with an argument with each other. I don't want to do that, so I just walk on eggshells and maybe wait for the right time, the right place to say it. So instead, in the conflict-free zone,
Mm-hmm.
once somebody has that experience of saying, I can really feel heard, but I know I'll be able to feel heard by my partner. The first thing that I have them do, there's 6 steps to maintaining the conflict-free zone. The first step is when you hear a criticism like that,
Mm-hmm.
you visualize, and you visualize 2 possibilities. One is the possibility of waiting for your response for the caring and sharing time, where there's a
Mm-hmm.
100% chance that you'll be heard, or just responding right now, where there's about an 80% chance that you'll be hurt. And so, so the step one is to visualize
Mm-hmm.
waiting for your response for that safe caring and sharing time. Step two
Mm-hmm.
is then if you decided to wait, is to write down 4 different steps on the computer or on notes, and the step, and it's this what would call journaling. And the first step of journaling is you write down every reason why your partner is wrong and every reason why you are 100% right. And that's what I call the self-righteous stage. And then
Mm-hmm.
after the self-righteous stage, step two is you write down something that maybe your partner had this point that you can acknowledge, and then a bunch of points that you can
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge that your partner made. And then the fourth step is write out the whole thing from your partner's perspective, as if you were arguing that perspective.
I
And
like that.
so that is very
Mm-hmm.
helpful for couples.
How do you think your workshops have been successful over time because of a particular age group? Or let me ask it another way. Is it a particular age group you think have gravitated and have utilized these things or is it that right across the board, whichever age group, whichever cultures, they've tried it and it's worked? Is there a specific, set that has said, yes, this works for me, and others will be like, no?
Yes. First of all, I don't really credit myself with accomplishing anything when people come up and say that was really a good workshop.
Okay.
I have people, because people self-select to make you feel good about yourself.
Mm,
So I invite every couple in the workshop
mm-hmm.
to a month or 2 months later
Okay.
on a free follow-up group phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And they each have to tell me everything that went well and
Okay.
everything that didn't go well.
Okay.
And the atmosphere is such that I let them feel that they are doing me a favor and doing future workshop participants a favor
Okay.
when they find something that's less than perfect in the workshop. And that's the way I arrived at the six mindsets that people sort of meditate into before they hear
Mm-hmm.
their partner's criticism. As some would say, this really worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
This one about the love guarantee. Another that really worked for a couple, this is kind of a fun one, is I have everyone in the workshop sit back to back with each other
Mm-hmm.
and to answer and to write down their answer to this question on a piece of paper that their partner will never see. And so they can be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question is, if your partner was about to be killed, let's say in a car crash or in a drown,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew with 100% certainty that you could save her or his life, but in the process, you would have a 50% chance of losing your own life. And if children weren't involved, would you do it? Yes, no, uncertain. And so all the guys, wrinkle up their piece of paper and throw it in one corner of the room. The women throw it in another part of the room,
Mm-hmm.
and they mix them all up, and then everybody reads somebody else's answer, but of the same gender. And so about 90% of the guys say yes, they would, even though some percentage of those guys are in that workshop because it's, they've been through 8 therapists and,
Mm-hmm.
they're ready to break up. And if this weekend doesn't work, that's the end of it. So even in that context, more than 90% of the guys say yes, they would be willing to take a 50% chance risk of losing their own life to save their partner's life. About 80% of the women, as long as children are not a consideration, say the same thing. And so the second mindset that I ask people to do before they're asked to listen to their partner's criticism, the second mindset is, well, if I'm willing to die for you, I guess I can listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it just puts listening in a very,
Yeah,
different
yeah,
perspective.
yeah. As we're wrapping up with all that you've said, if there was one secret you'd say to couples to say from role mate to soulmate, here is a secret to a lifelong relationship, what would that one secret be?
The one is doing the practice of knowing how to handle criticism without being defensive. That's what ruins more relationships. And the second is appreciations. There's lots of others, like the importance of playing together,
Mhm.
and things like that are also very important. But those two are
Most.
if you would, the bread and butter of it.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Farrell.
It's a real pleasure to be with you.
This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and